The room smelled faintly of jasmine and old money, polished floors, crystal chandeliers, and the soft hum of conversation as your parents spoke with Mr. Jones. You sat still, hands clasped nervously in your lap, waiting for him. Then he walked in. John Jungkook, tall, sharp featured, perfectly composed in a black suit that fit him like sin itself. His presence filled the room effortlessly, though he barely spoke. When your eyes met his, he gave a polite note, no warmth, no smile, just a flicker of acknowledgement before he turned to greet your father. Thank you for having me. His voice was calm, smooth, yet distant like a man trained to sound cautious without emotion. Your father stood shaking his head with visible pride. We are honored, Jungkook. Once been nervous all week about meeting you. Your cheeks burned, but Jungkook's expression didn't change. He only turned his gaze to you sharp, assessing before lowering his hand politely. Miss Vine, Mr. Jones. He noted once the faintest trace of amusement flickering in his eyes at your awkward tone. Then, facing your parents again, he spoke in that same collected voice. I'll take responsibility for our happiness. The words were respectful, but his tone was detached, like he was promising a business deal, not a life. He didn't even look at you when he said it, and somehow that stung more than you wanted to admit. Still, he couldn't help noticing small things, the clean scent of his cologne, the way his hand briefly brushed the chair before letting you sit first. Polite, controlled, cold. He told himself not to expect warmth from a man who looked like winter incarnate. A week later, Jungkook invited your family for dinner at his mansion. It wasn't a house, it was art. Every corner glimmered with elegance, marble floors, modern chandeliers, black grand piano near a wide glass wall overlooking the city. Everything screamed wealth, but the atmosphere felt eerily quiet, like no one truly lived there. Jungkook was the same, polished, distant, but perfect. He wore a navy suit tonight, sleeves slightly rolled up. As he poured wine for your father, he spoke about investments, schedules, his company's expansion, everything but feelings. You barely existed in the conversation, except when he occasionally looked your way, eyes unreadable. At one point, your mother smiled and said warmly, "You two look good together. I'm sure you'll learn to understand each other soon." Jungkook only gave a faint smile. Understanding takes time. I'll make sure she feels secure. That pause, that hesitation before secure told you he didn't say words like happy or loved. They didn't seem to exist in his vocabulary. Dinner ended quietly. But when everyone was preparing to leave, the night air turned cold. You rubbed your arms, shivering slightly. Before you could react, a heavy jacket was draped over your shoulders, soft, warm, smelling like cedarwood and him. You turned, startled, to see Jungkook standing just behind you. He didn't meet your eyes. You didn't have to. You're shivering. That was all he said. No smile, no lingering gaze, just a quiet act of care that contradicted every wall he built around himself. It was a cloudy afternoon when Jungkook's black car pulled up outside your home unannounced. You peeked through the window. Startled, he was leaning against the car, sleeves rolled, hands in pockets, looking effortlessly intimidating even in silence. Your mother opened the door, smiling nervously. Oh, Jungkook, what a surprise! Jungkook gave a polite bow. I hope I'm not intruding. I wanted to take wine out for a few hours with your permission. Your father grinned. Of course, she's all yours, but don't keep her out too late, son. That word son made your stomach twist. You grabbed your bag, trying not to show how fast your heart was racing. The ride was silent at first, the low hum of the car filled the space as city lights blurred past. He drove with one hand resting on the steering wheel, posture relaxed, but his jawline tense like his mind was always elsewhere. You didn't tell me where we are going. You'll see. He sat simply, eyes fixed on the road. After half an hour, the car stopped by a quiet riverside cafe. Small, hidden, surrounded by fairy lights and willows swaying in the breeze. It felt private, peaceful, nothing like the cold perfection of his mansion. Inside, you took a seat, still unsure what this was. You come here often? Not really, but it's quiet. He called the waiter and ordered without looking at the menu. One iced vanilla latte, one caramel macchiato. Dumpling, that was your favorite. How did you order it at the engagement dinner? You didn't finish it. You stared at him surprised, so you even noticed. His gaze stayed on the window, uninterested, but there was something almost protective in his silence. When the drinks arrived, he finally looked at you, not cold, not soft, just real. I'm not good at this. Small talk, pretending to be someone I'm not. Then don't pretend. His eyes lingered on you for a moment longer than usual, then he exhaled slowly. I'll try not to. You smiled faintly, your heart sinking and soaring all at once because even though his words were simple, they felt like the first crack in his walls. And maybe, just maybe, you were beginning to fall for the man who didn't know how to show he cared. But somehow, always did. Weeks passed, and the rhythm of your engagement began to settle into something resembling familiarity, not warmth, not yet, but a subtle understanding that neither of you voiced loud. You often accompanied Jungkook to formal dinners and business galas, standing by his side like a poised ornament. In a world of wealth and calculation, he remained the same immaculate suit, unreadable expression, words chosen like precision cut glass. Yet, beneath the stillness, you sensed something almost protective in the way he moved around you. The first time you noticed it was at a charity banquet. A few business partners' sons, too charming for their own good, lingered near your table, making conversation with thinly veiled interest. You felt Jungkook's hand at your waist, his fingers pressed slightly, the gesture subtle but deliberate. He didn't look at you, didn't say a word. His expression remained perfectly neutral as he addressed one of them in a tone that could slice glass. You were saying something about the stock market, were not you? The man blinked, startled, quickly turning the topic back to finance. Jungkook's hand never left your wrist. His thumb traced a faint line across the fabric of your dress, not possessive, but grounding, reminding you where you belonged. Later, as the car glided through the quiet city streets, you finally spoke. You didn't have to scare him. He wasn't scared, just reminded. Reminded of what? That you're not someone to be approached carelessly. He said it too casually, like it wasn't the most intimate thing anyone had ever said to you. He looked out the window, hiding the faint smile tugging at your lips. It was past midnight when Jungkook finally came home after another exhausting day at work. You had been waiting through, you had never admitted aloud, pretending to read on the couch. The dim lamplight wrapping the room in a soft amber glow, he entered silently, loosening his tie, his movements languid but wary. There was something different in his demeanor tonight, a gentleness in his eyes that you rarely saw. Without a word, he placed a small velvet box on the table before you. What is this? Open it. Inside lay a slender silver bracelet, delicate yet elegant, glinting faintly under the warm light. The metal cord breathed simple but breathtaking in its subtlety. Jungkook, he didn't meet your gaze. Instead, he sank into the armchair opposite you, resting his forearms on his knees. His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. Wear it when you want. That was all. No explanation, no sentimentality. But you heard everything he didn't say. It wasn't just a gift, it was a claim, a mark of quiet belonging from a man who couldn't yet say the words mine out loud. You traced the metal with trembling fingers. It's beautiful. It suits you. For a fleeting second, his gaze lifted, meeting yours, and in that unspoken silence, something shifted like the air between you had learned a new language. Neither of you understood yet. A few days later, you fell ill, a fever that left you weak and aching. You hadn't expected to even notice. He was always busy, buried in endless meetings and late night calls. But at noon, the door to his bedroom creaked open. There he stood, hair slightly disheveled, sleeves rolled, holding a bag of medicine and a small bowl of porridge. You blinked, dazed. You shouldn't have come. It's just a cold. A cold doesn't make your temperature reach 39 degrees. He placed the items on your bedside table, checking the thermometer beside your pillow. His bruised throat slightly, lips tightening in disapproval. You didn't call the doctor. Do you always neglect yourself this much? I didn't want to bother anyone. Bothering me isn't something you should worry about. He said it so softly that you almost didn't catch it. Then, as you tried to sit up, he placed a steady hand on your shoulder, guiding you back down. Rest. You watched as he took off his watch, rolled up his sleeves further, and sat by your bed, pulling out his phone, pretending to scroll through emails. But every few minutes, his gaze drifted toward you, lingering with quiet concern. You can go, I'll be fine. I'll leave when your fever drops. Hours passed like that, the room filled with the soft rhythm of rain against the window and the muted sound of his breathing. When you finally dozed off, your hand slipped slightly from under the blanket. He noticed for a moment Chunguk hesitated, then reached out, gently tucking the blanket back over you. You're too fragile for your own good. And though you didn't hear him, his fingers lingered near yours. For just a second longer before he pulled away, resuming his silence, his phone still untouched in his hand. That night your fever faded, and though neither of you spoke about it afterward, something between you had changed, not dramatically, not loudly, but deeply. He was still cold, still distant, but his silence no longer felt like rejection, it felt like protection. And you, against all logic, were beginning to crave the quiet way Jungkook cared. The first time we saw her was at one of Jungkook's corporate galas, a lavish evening draped in chandeliers and murmured sophistication. The air shimmered with perfume and expensive tension. You were standing beside him, your hand resting lightly on his arm, trying to match the effortless poise of the woman who seemed born into this kind of elegance. Jungkook, as always, was calm, a statue carved from restraint and grace, then a voice light, musical, unmistakably familiar sliced through the chatter. Ria, she was beautiful, breathtaking in a way that felt effortless. The kind of woman who didn't just enter a room, she owned it. Her confidence was her crown. The satin fabric of her dark gown caught the light as she walked toward you, both lips curling into a knowing smile. Cook, your heart stuttered. Cook, no one called him that. You would never dare to. He turned, and for the first time in forever, you saw something different in his eyes, a flicker of familiarity, of something shared. Ria. They exchanged that look, the silent kind that history always carries. You could tell she was from his past, maybe more than that, a remnant of who he used to be before he built those walls. She laughed softly, touching his arm like it was a reflex. Still as serious as ever, you haven't changed. Some things shouldn't. Her laugh was a melody that seemed to fill the space between you. She didn't look at you, yet not properly. You were an accessory to her nostalgia, invisible in their shared familiarity. When she finally did glance your way, it was with a smile too poised to be kind, and this must be your fiance. You smile politely, pouring slightly. It's nice to meet you. Oh, I'm sure it is. Something in her tone prickled beneath your skin. That quiet condescension wrapped in charm. She turned back to Jungkook effortlessly, resuming her conversation as if she hadn't just dismissed you from it. You stood still, forcing yourself to breathe through the growing tightness in your chest. Later that night, during a quieter gathering at Jungkook's mansion, Ria was there again, seated too comfortably beside him in the lounge, sipping wine like she had been doing it for years. You joined them, your smile practiced but fading at the edges. Then your eyes caught something, that delicate silver bracelet circling your wrist. Oh, her lips curved into a smirk. As she leaned forward slightly, that bracelet, I have one just like it. Jungkook gave it to me years ago. The word froze for you. Every heartbeat sounded too loud. He looked at her, then at Jungkook. He didn't deny it. He didn't even flinch. His silence was heavier than any truth he could have spoken. You forced a soft smile, the kind that hides cracks. It's a lovely design. You must have good taste, Miss Ria. Ria tilted her head, feigning sweetness. Oh, I didn't choose it, Jungkook did. She said it like a reminder of ownership, of familiarity, of what once belonged to her. You excused yourself soon after blaming a headache, but deep down, the ache wasn't in your head, it was in your chest, sharp, cold, unrelenting. The drive home was painfully silent. Jungkook's hand rested on the steering wheel, his jaw tight, eyes fixed ahead. The air between you buzzed with unspoken questions. When you reached his mansion, you couldn't hold it in anymore. Was it hers first? He paused mid step for a moment. He didn't answer. Then his voice came low, even emotionless. It's just a bracelet, don't overthink. You swallowed hard, forcing a bitter laugh. Right, just a bracelet. I must be overreacting then. He looked at you finally, eyes unreadable, face sculpted in restraint. You're making something out of nothing. Then why didn't you say anything when she said it? You let her humiliate me. He exhaled sharply, stepping closer. Not angry but conflicted because I didn't want to create a scene. You think I care what she says? No, I think you care what she thinks. That landed like a strike. For once, Jungkook didn't have a reply. His silence was your answer. You turned away before he could see the shimmer in your eyes. Good night, Jungkook. One afternoon, you found yourself alone with her in the hallway outside Jungkook's office. Ria's heels clicked softly against the marble as she approached you, eyes gleaming. You know he's not an easy man to understand. He doesn't let people close. You stiffened, meeting her gaze head on. Maybe you just didn't know how to stay close. Her smirk faltered just for a second before she regained her composure. Cute, but I wasn't talking about me. She leaned in slightly, her voice a whisper coated in venom. He doesn't let people in wine except me. You held your ground even as her words cut deep because deep down you already feared it might be true. That maybe you were just someone he promised to care for, not someone he chose to love. When Chungkook appeared moments later, calling your name softly, Ria smiled sweetly and slipped her arm through his like it was the most natural thing in the world. And for the first time since your engagement began, you wished he could just look at you, not with politeness, not with duty, but with love. But his gaze remained elsewhere, and your heart quietly began to break. Days blurred together after that night. Jungkook was colder than ever, or maybe you had simply stopped trying to melt his frost. You still attended the same meetings, the same formal gatherings, but now the space between you felt like an entire ocean, and Rio was still there, shimmering in confidence, always within his orbit. But one evening, while passing through the quiet corridor outside Jungkook's office, you overheard a conversation that made your steps falter. Ria's voice soft and amused. She doesn't belong in your world, Jungkook. She's too fragile. You don't have to pretend anymore. There was a pause, a silence so sharp it made your breath hitch. Then Jungkook spoke, his voice colder than winter, yet trembling faintly with restraint. For you. Watch your words, Ria. I'm only saying the truth. She's my fiance. The air shifted low, dark, protective. Show her respect. You froze, the firmness in his tone, the quiet stage in his words. It wasn't for appearances, it was real. Though the small crack in the door, you saw Ria's expression falter, her confidence shattering like glass. You have changed, that's the point. He left silently, heart pounding against your ribs, warmth and ache colliding inside you. He had defended you not as a duty, not as an obligation, but because somewhere between the cold nights and silent dinners you had become his. But even that small warmth couldn't drown out the doubts that haunted you. He kept replaying his silences, the glances, the moments where he almost reached for you but never did. You wanted more than his protection, you wanted his love, unspoken, unrestrained, real. That night you packed a small bag, the rain was falling relentlessly, drumming against your windows as if echoing your heartbeats. You couldn't stay in that hollow house anymore, not when every corner whispered his name. When you opened the door to leave, he was standing there, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to his forehead, black shirt clinging to his skin. Chunguk looked nothing like the composed man you knew. His eyes were dark, wild, desperate. Where do you think you are going? Your lips trembled away from you. He took a step closer, water dripping from his jawline. You don't get to walk away from me. Why not? You don't even love me, Jungkook. You never have. The rain intensified, a storm breaking open in the sky. He stared at you, no words, just that look, raw and burning. Then suddenly he spoke, his voice cracked, stripped of all the control he had clung to. You think I don't love you because I don't say it? You blinked, your breath catching. Because I don't know how to say it, Wine. I was never taught how to be gentle, only how to control, to build, to lay. But with you, he stepped closer until his breath mingled with yours. You ruin every rule I have ever lived by. Every time you look at me, I forget how to stay cold. Tears blurred your vision. Then why do you keep pushing me away? His voice broke completely then because you terrify me. The confession fell between you like a plate trembling, beautiful, devastating. I thought if I stayed distant, I could protect you from what I am. But I can't do this anymore. I can watch you leave. Before he could respond, his hand cupped your cheeks, his thumb brushing away your tears as his lips found yours. It wasn't gentle, it was desperate, feverish like years of restraint burning away in a single breath. The rain poured hard, soaking you both as his arms wrapped around you, holding you as if letting go would mean losing yourself. When he finally pulled back, his voice was a whisper against your skin. You don't have to love me back, just don't stop trying. You looked at him, this broken, beautiful man who had finally stopped pretending, and in that moment, every wall between you crumbled into ash. Ria saw it before anyone else, the change in him. The way Jungkook's gaze now followed you across the room, softer and guarded. The way his tone lost its edge when he spoke your name. She visited him last time, standing in his office with that familiar smirk now faded. You have changed, Jungkook. You don't even try to hide it anymore. He leaned back in his chair, eyes cold but not cruel. I stopped pretending. Was she really worth it? Chubuk's answer came without hesitation. She's the only thing that ever was. And that was the last time she saw him as the man she once knew.